Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling job interviews.
Yeah. We're going to dissect Dawn Rosenberg McKay's The Everything Practice interview.
This deep dive is going to be like having a secret weapon for your next interview. Seriously.
Forget the generic tips. We're going deep and giving you actionable strategies to really stand out.
Let's kick things off with transferable skills.
Right. Those skills you bring from past roles, even if they seem totally unrelated at first glance.
The book had this awesome story about someone switching from publishing to a completely different field.
Yeah, and what's cool is she got the job by really showcasing her planning and management skills.
Exactly. She presented herself as someone who could handle any project, meet any deadline, no matter the industry.
It's all about how you frame those experiences.
Like, let's say you organized a huge school book fair.
Well, think about it. Budgeting, scheduling, volunteers, maybe even some marketing.
Boom! Those are all valuable skills that employers are looking for.
Absolutely. So everyone listening, what are your hidden gems? Think about a time you led a project, managed a team, or even mastered a complex video game.
It's about connecting the dots and showing the value you bring.
Okay, let's tackle something that can make anyone nervous.
Yeah.
Behavioral interview questions?
Oh yeah, those "tell me about a time when" questions.
They can be tough, but they're not about tricking you.
Right. They're designed to see how you've actually handled real-life situations.
The book really stressed having strong examples ready to go. Like there's this story about a candidate who convinced her manager to hire a freelancer instead of a full-time employee.
Smart move.
Ugh.
And she did it by presenting a well-researched cost-benefit analysis.
Impressive, right? It showed initiative, analytical skills, and a focus on the company's bottom line.
Exactly. That's what employers want to see.
So, how can you prepare for these questions? Think about the skills your stories demonstrate. Problem solving, leadership, communication.
Yeah, once you pinpoint those key skills, you can pull from tons of experiences. That time you led a group project, resolved a conflict.
All those experiences become valuable examples. And don't be afraid to get specific. Use numbers, quantify your results, make those stories come alive.
Right. The impact is what matters. Now, let's be real. Some interview questions can be a bit uncomfortable.
Totally, like explaining a short stint on your resume or a gap in your work history.
It's tempting to gloss over those things, but honesty is key.
The book emphasized owning your narrative. Don't make excuses. Focus on what you learned.
Exactly. Did a short-term project teach you valuable time management? Did a career break allow you to develop new skills?
There's even an example of someone who got fired but framed it as a mutual realization. They talked about the lessons learned.
It's about turning a potential negative into a positive, showing self-awareness and a desire to grow.
Okay, let's talk about research. This is where you can really stand out.
Right, and I'm talking going beyond just skimming the company website. Dive deep.
Analyze their financials, understand their competitors. Heck, find blogs written by employees for insider perspectives.
You can find some really insightful stuff if you dig a little.
The book highlights a candidate who identified a customer service weakness and came prepared with a plan to address it. Talk about initiative.
That shows you're not just looking for any job. You're invested in this company.
So what can you uncover? What are the company's goals, challenges, values?
The more you know, the better you can tailor your responses.
And speaking of showing you're engaged, let's talk about asking insightful questions at the end of the interview.
Oh, this is huge EE. So many people miss this opportunity.
It's tempting to just ask about benefits or vacation time.
But think bigger. What are their plans for growth? What are their biggest challenges?
What's the career path for this role? These questions show you're thinking ahead.
Absolutely. Plus, it helps you decide if it's the right fit for you. Remember, it's a two-way street.
Now let's talk about salary negotiation. It can be a little awkward, but it's important.
Totally. And the book advises against giving a specific number too early.
Instead, deflect those questions
Yeah.
and ask about their salary range.
Yeah, that puts the ball in their court and gives you valuable info.
There's a story about a candidate who nailed this. She researched typical salary ranges and expressed confidence in reaching a fair agreement.
Preparation is key here. Know your worth.
Okay, before we wrap up this first part, let's quickly touch on your rights as a candidate. There are some questions an interviewer can't legally ask.
Like about your age, marital status, or religion. It's important to know what's off limits.
If you get hit with an illegal question, stay calm. Redirect the conversation to your qualifications.
Right. You have the right to walk away from any situation that makes you uncomfortable.
Awesome. So we covered a lot. Transferable skills, behavioral questions, research, salary negotiation, even knowing your rights.
Phew, that's a lot.
But there's more to come. The next part of our deep dive will tackle tricky hypothetical scenarios.
Yeah, we'll get into those what would you do if questions.
Stay tuned. It's going to be good.
It is.
All right, welcome back to our job interview deep dive. You ready to tackle some of those tricky scenarios? You know, the ones that can really make or break an interview?
Oh yeah, those curveball questions, those what would you do if situations, they can definitely get the nerves going.
For sure. But the good news is, with the right approach, you can actually turn these into opportunities. Show off your problem-solving skills, your ability to think on your feet.
Absolutely. Turn those potential weaknesses into strengths.
Exactly. Okay, so let's start with a classic interview situation. You're asked about a time you disagreed with your boss. How do you navigate that without throwing anyone under the bus?
Yeah, it's a tough one. You don't want to badmouth your previous employer, but you also need to be honest.
Right. The book really emphasized the importance of picking your battles. Not every disagreement needs to be a big debate.
Right, right. It's about knowing when to speak up and when to let it go. Like, I remember this one candidate.
Oh, yeah.
She said she wouldn't necessarily voice her opinion about, say, the office temperature, but she would absolutely raise concerns if she thought a marketing campaign was headed in the wrong direction.
That makes sense. It's about being assertive, not aggressive. And when you do disagree, how do you do it effectively?
Well, like we talked about before, owning your narrative is key. Focus on the facts, be respectful, offer alternative solutions.
Frame it as a collaborative effort.
Exactly. You're working together to find the best outcome for the company.
And sometimes it's not just about disagreeing with your superiors. You might be asked about how you would handle someone you supervise disagreeing with you.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, how do you handle that?
It's a chance to show that you value open communication, that you're willing to listen to different perspectives.
Right, create that environment of trust.
Exactly. The candidate in the book had a great response to this one.
Oh yeah, what did she say?
She said she would expect her team member to come to her and share their thoughts openly.
Smart.
Because, it might influence her decision-making.
It's all about creating that dialogue. Okay, let's move on to some of those curveball questions, the ones that can really throw you off.
Yeah, those ones that seem to come out of left field. And you're like, wait, what?
Right, exactly. The key is to stay calm, think clearly, and try to connect your answer back to the job you're interviewing for.
Even if the question seems totally random.
Totally. There's usually a way to relate it back to your skills or experiences.
There's a question in the book about what you would do if your company implemented a policy you disagreed with.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is. But the candidate's response was spot on.
What did she say?
She said she would first, evaluate the situation. Is it a minor issue or something that really impacts the company's values?
Right, gotta prioritize.
And if it's the latter, she wouldn't just complain or gossip. She would proactively try to find a better solution.
I like that.
It's about being a problem solver, not a complainer.
Absolutely. You're not afraid to challenge the status quo, but you do it constructively.
All right, here's another one. You receive an unfair performance evaluation. How do you react?
Ugh, that's the worst.
Right. It's natural to feel frustrated.
Totally. But you can't just storm into your boss's office.
No, definitely not. The candidate in the book said he would first wait until he was calm, gather his thoughts, and then discuss it with his supervisor.
Much better approach.
Yeah.
Calm, cool, and collected.
Exactly. It's all about demonstrating emotional intelligence and composure.
Yeah.
You're able to articulate your perspective clearly.
Right, you don't want to let your emotions get the best of you.
And these questions aren't designed to trick you. They're just trying to understand your thought process, how you handle pressure, your interpersonal skills.
Right, right. They want to see how you would navigate challenging situations in the workplace.
Okay, let's talk about teamwork.
Oh, that's a big one. I feel like every interview touches on teamwork.
Being able to work effectively with others is essential.
Totally. And interviewers really want to see that you have the skills to collaborate, communicate, and, yeah, even resolve conflicts.
The book actually gives a great example of a candidate who was asked about handling a situation where two team members she supervised didn't get along.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. How did you handle that?
She was able to draw on a real-life experience, which is always a plus.
Of course.
She described bringing those two employees together, facilitating a conversation, encouraging them to find common ground.
I love that.
They might not have become best friends, but they learned to respect each other.
And work together effectively.
It's about showing you can mediate, build consensus, create that positive team environment.
Absolutely.
All right, here's a question that might seem a bit unusual at first. Describe your ideal coworker.
That is an interesting one.
It's not a trick question, though. It's a chance to really reflect on your values, what you prioritize in a work relationship.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
The candidate in the book mentioned things like respect, constructive criticism, shared responsibility, willingness to help each other out.
Those are all good qualities.
Right. It shows you're a team player, someone who values collaboration.
It's also a good way for the interviewer to see if you're self-aware. Are you walking the walk, so to speak?
Well, exactly. Do your words and actions match up?
Okay, so along the same lines, you might also be asked to describe your ideal manager.
Oh, yeah. This one can be revealing.
It tells them about your expectations, your work style, what kind of leadership you respond to.
Right. The candidate in the book described her ideal manager as someone who sets high expectations, but also respects their employees, provides support and guidance, recognizes accomplishments.
That sounds like a good manager.
It suggests someone who thrives in a challenging but supportive environment, someone who's driven to achieve and grow.
It's a good way to see if the company culture is a good fit for you.
Exactly. So if you were asked that question, what would your answer be?
Yeah, that's a good one to think about. What kind of work environment do you excel in? What kind of leadership really inspires you?
Having those answers ready can really help you articulate your preferences with confidence. Welcome back to our job interview deep dive. We're tackling those really tricky scenarios that can make or break an interview.
Yeah, these are the situations that really put your skills to the test.
Like this one. Imagine someone comes to you complaining about their supervisor. Sensitive situation. How do you handle it?
Well, the book stressed not jumping to conclusions. You don't want to get caught up in office gossip.
Right. You need all the facts.
Exactly. And the candidate in the book, she asked a brilliant question. Have you spoken directly to your supervisor about this?
Oh, good point.
Yeah, because that should always be the first step.
And even if they have spoken to their supervisor,
You still need to hear both sides of the story.
shows fairness, right?
Absolutely. And a commitment to resolving conflict the right way.
Okay, let's talk about another tricky situation. A coworker who's not pulling their weight.
Ugh, yeah. We've all been there.
The book actually had a scenario where a long-term employee's performance starts to slip,
Oh, that's tough. What do they recommend?
focusing on understanding the root cause.
Okay, yeah. Is there a lack of training? A personal issue? Something else going on?
Exactly. Don't just label them as lazy or unmotivated.
Dig a little deeper.
See if there's a way to support them.
Help them get back on track.
It shows empathy and a commitment to finding solutions for everyone.
Okay, what about this? The coworker who's constantly on personal calls, disrupting everyone.
No, that's the worst. What do you do?
The book suggested being direct, but diplomatic.
Like, have a conversation with them.
Yeah, they might not even realize how their behavior is impacting others.
That's true. Sometimes people just need a little nudge.
Exactly. And if talking doesn't work, maybe explore other options. Noise-canceling headphones, a different seating arrangement.
Right. Be proactive. Find solutions.
Make the work environment better for everyone.
All right, here's a skill that's essential in almost any job. Handling customer complaints.
Ooh, yeah, that's a big one.
How do you keep the customer happy while still upholding company policies?
It's a balancing act, for sure. I remember the book had an example.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it.
It was a customer who wanted to return an item, but it didn't meet the store's policy. The candidate's response was great.
What did they say?
They acknowledged the policy, but also recognized that sometimes you need to make exceptions.
I like that.
They basically said the company's bottom line is important, but it's not as important as people's lives.
Showed compassion. Right.
Yes. And a willingness to go the extra mile.
Okay, let's switch gears to those questions about your future aspirations. How do you talk about your career goals in a way that aligns with the job you're interviewing for?
Yeah, you don't want to seem like you're already looking past this role.
The book gave a good example of someone who wants to eventually become a principal but is interviewing for a teaching position.
Oh, yeah, that's tricky. How do they handle it?
They were upfront about their long-term goals,
Okay,
but they emphasized that they see the current role as a stepping stone.
that makes sense.
Shows ambition, but also a realistic understanding of the career path.
And a genuine interest in the job at hand.
Exactly. And it's important to connect your goals to what you know about the company.
Oh, right. Like if they have opportunities for growth in that area?
The candidate in the example actually researched the company's growth plans,
Smart.
expressed excitement about contributing to those specific areas.
Tells you've done your homework and that you're thinking long term.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to emphasize asking insightful questions at the end of the interview.
Yes. Such an important step that so many people overlook.
It's your chance to show you're engaged, you're curious.
And that you're thinking strategically.
Go beyond those surface level questions. Ask about the company's biggest challenges, their plans for growth.
You could even ask about the career path of the person you'd be replacing.
Those are great
That
questions.
shows you're not just looking for a job. You're looking for a place where you can really make an impact.
Exactly. And remember, a job interview is a two-way street.
It's as much about them assessing you as it is about you assessing them.
So go in prepared, be confident, and showcase those amazing skills and experiences you bring to the table.
You got this.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into job interviews. We hope you learned some valuable strategies to help you land that dream job.
Best of luck out there.